Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Faizan Khan, and in this video we will be learning how to build this employee management system using Python, CustomTkinter and MySQL database. Let me show you how this project works. So this is the login page. Here you need to enter your username, your password, but if you will not enter these details and directly try to log in, it says all fields are required. And if you enter some random username and some random password and try to log in, it says invalid credentials. So you need to enter the correct username and the correct password in order to log in successfully. Now you can see login successful. Once I click this OK, we are logged into the employee management system. So these are already registered employees. In order to register any employee, we need to mention the ID here, name of the employee, phone number of the employee, role, his gender, then the salary. After entering the details, you need to click on this add employee. You can see data has been inserted. So here you can see the data is inserted. Okay. Now suppose if you want to make changes in the role or the salary of any employee, so you can select that employee and here you can make the changes and simply update them. So you can see now the salary is updated. Similarly, if some employee leaves the company and you want to delete their record, so you can select that and simply click on this delete employee. So you can see the data has been deleted. So once you select any row here, all that data will be filled in these entry fields. So if you want to add a new employee, you have to click on this new employee. So here you can mention the details of that employee again and click on this add employee. Okay. After that, if you want to search any particular employee based on any option, like based on phone number or role or gender or salary, you can search by gender. I'll mention which gender and we'll click on the search button. So you can see these are the male records. Similarly, you can search based on the ID or role or anything. For example, if I want to check web developers, so there is one. And once I click the show all the records will be visible here. And then we have this delete all button. If we click on it, it says, do you really want to delete all records? If I say no, nothing will happen. But if I click on yes, all the records will be deleted from here. Okay. Suppose you are not mentioning any value here and directly click on this search button. It says enter value to search. So we will be entering some value in order to search. For example, ID1. And if we are not selecting the option from here and directly try to search, it says select option. So I have applied validations here. And then if the user is not entering these details and directly tries to click on this add employee button, these fields cannot be empty. So we need to fill all these fields in order to add employee. Similarly, if you try to update employee without selecting any employee, it says choose an employee to update. Okay. Similarly, if we try to click on this delete employee, it says choose an employee to delete. So I hope you understood how this project is working. Now let's start building this project from scratch, step by step. I will be explaining each and everything to you. Just watch the full tutorial carefully, and if you have any doubts, let me know in the comment section. Please like this video, as you know it takes a lot of time to build this project, and if you are new to this channel, make sure you subscribe to it. Time to time I keep on uploading projects here. So without any further delay, let's get started. Make sure in your PC Python and some editor like PyCharm or VS Code is installed. If you don't have Python and PyCharm, I will attach the video links in the description of this video. You can watch those videos and download and install that. And also make sure MySQL database is installed. I will attach the link of that too in the description of this video. So I'm gonna use PyCharm here to write my code and run my code. So I'll create a new project, and here I will give the project folder name. And then I will select the base interpreter from here. It can be any interpreter of your choice. I'll go with the latest one, which is 3.11. Okay. And then I will click on this create button. I will open this project on a new window. So our project setup is getting ready here. You can simply select all and backspace. So we have this main.py Python file where we will write a Python code. You can also create your Python file by right clicking on the folder, go to new, and from here you can create a Python file. You can enter the name of the file and your Python file will be created. Okay. So firstly, we will be building the login page. So this is the page. If you see here, firstly we need to create a window, and then we will be adding size to our window. After that, we will be adding the background image to our window, and then we will be adding this label, employee management system, and these two entry fields. Okay, and then this button, and after that we will add functionality to this button. So let's see one by one. So in order to create the graphical user interface, I have used CustomTkinter library. It is similar to the tkinter library that we get with this Python interpreter, which is inbuilt. So you can think of CustomTkinter library as the enhanced version of tkinter library. So we will go to terminal, and here we will type pip install CustomTkinter. So as you can see, it is successfully installed for me. Sometimes from the terminal, modules are not installed. So if that is the case, you can go to this Python packages, and here you can search for CustomTkinter. Okay, you can click here and simply install. Since it's installed for me, so I'm seeing it in the installed section. Okay. After installing, you just need to import it. So you'll write from CustomTkinter import asterisk. What this line means, that you are importing all the classes and the methods which are there inside this library or module CustomTkinter. Okay. After that, we have to create our window, login window, right? So in order to create the window, we have to create object of the CTK class. So how do we create the object? Like this. Okay, so root is the variable name. You can call it a window name, which is root. Okay, and you just have to create the object of the CTK class. Once you create the object of the CTK class, your window will be created. You can right click and run main. You can see our project ended, but we were not able to see the window. The reason is this code executed very fast. So we need to keep our window on hold, okay, so that we can see it continuously. So we need to keep our window continuously on the screen. So for that, there is a method inside the CTK class, and we can access that method with the help of this variable root, and the method name is main loop. Now if you run it, you can see we are seeing the window continuously on the screen. Okay. Now we have to change the width and the height of this window. For that, we have a method here, which is known as geometry. And to this geometry method, we have to pass the width and the height of the window. So I'll give width as 930 and height as 478. You can see the window sizes change now. After that, I will disable this maximize button so that our window is of fixed size. So for that, we again have a method which is known as resizable, and here we have to pass false value for the width and false value for the height. So now this maximize button will be disabled, so you won't be able to change the window size. So all these methods are a part of the CTK class. And if you are writing anything after this main loop method, that won't be executed. For example, if I try to set the title outside this main loop, for example, login page, if I run it, you can see the title is not changed. So by default, CTK is the title. It is not changed. Why it is not changed? Because this main loop method is keeping everything on a loop. So this code is continuously on a loop. So the control is not going to this line. Okay. So make sure you write everything before this root.main loop like this. And now if you run it, you will see the title here. Now we need to add the background image on our window. So I will be using the same background image that I have used in my original project. So I'll copy the background image from here and I'll paste here. You can download any image of your choice from Google. This is the JPG image, and you can see the size of this image is 930 cross 478. So this is the same size as our window. Okay, so that it can fit perfectly in our window. That's why I have taken this window size. So in order to add this image in our code, we have to store this image in some variable. For example, image. This is the variable. Okay, and to import this image in our code, we will be requiring pillow library. So we'll go to terminal again, and here we will type pip install pillow like this. Once this pillow library is installed, you can write from from PIL. This is Python image library. Import image class. Okay, so this image class will help in importing this image in our code. So I'll write here image dot open. Okay, and here we have to pass the image name, which is cover.jpg. and we have to apply CTK image class to this. So we'll write CTK image and we'll keep everything inside that CTK image class. Okay, and then we also need to mention the size of the image. So as you know, size is 930 width and 478 height, like this. Okay, so now this image is imported in our code and is stored inside this image variable. So if I run at this stage, you will not be able to see the image. The reason is that we have just imported the image, but we have not added it on our window. Okay, so in order to add it on a window, we will have to add it on a label. So firstly, we will create one label which will be image label, and it will be created using CTK label class. And firstly, where you want to see this label, I want to see this label in my window, so we'll pass the root object here, and then the image name, as you want to see the image on this label, like this. Now if I run it, still you can't see it because you have just created the label and added image to it, but you have not mentioned where you want to see this label. I mean, at the top, at the bottom, in the center, on the left, or at some particular XY position. Okay, so for that you have to write image label dot place method. Okay, so there is this place method inside the CTK label class, and here you need to mention the X value and the Y value. So since we want to see the image from the starting position, so that's why X value is 0 and Y value is 0. So you can see that we are able to see the background image. Okay, so background image can be added on a window with the help of a label. So firstly, we will be creating a label, and on that label we will be adding the image. Okay, this image, and then we also have to place our label on the screen. I mean, where you want to see this label. If I mention 100x, so you will see this label getting placed from 100 distance x-axis, right? So it is appearing from this position. Another thing is that we are seeing the CTK label text here. Okay, so by default we get this text. So what we will do, we'll make this text as empty. So we'll write like this, text equals to null. So we don't want any text. So now you won't see that. Okay, after that we have to add employee management system label here. Okay, so just like we have added image on a label, in the same way we have to add text on a label in order to see it on our window. So we'll write CTK label. So this is the class to create a label. Okay, and this label will be in my window only, so we'll mention root, and then the text on this label will be employee management system. Okay, and we will create a variable named heading label or any name. Why we are creating this variable? So that we can use the place method of the CTK label in order to place this label on our screen. Okay, so after creating the label, if you again run it at this stage, you won't be able to see the heading label. The reason is that you have just created the label but you did not place it. So we'll write heading label dot place method, and here I will be mentioning the X position, which is 20, and the Y position 100. So from Y position at 100 distance you will see employee management system written like this. Okay, I will change the background color of this label so that it matches the background color of this image. Okay, so how do we find what is the background color of the image? It looks white but it's not completely white. So in PyCharm we have this option of show color picker, so we can use it. and from here we can use this and click on the image to get the color code. It is FA. Okay, and this is the RGB code. So here we can mention the text color, sorry, we need to mention the background color, right? So it will be BG color. BG color will be hash FA. Now you can see that the background color matches with the background color of our image. After that, we will provide some font to this text. So we'll write font equals to, so the font that I have used in my original project is Gaudi old style. And then the size of the text will be 20, and I'll make the text as bold like this. Now if I run it, you can see that the styling is changed, the size is changed, and the text is bold. You have to keep the font in the form of a tuple. Make sure you add the font like this only. After that, I will change the text color. So text color I'll keep to dark blue like this. Okay. After that, we need to add two entry fields. First will be for username, second will be for password, and then the button. So let's create the entry fields. So first will be user name entry. So this is the variable name. You can give any name of your choice, but make sure you give variable names which are relevant, so that it will be easy for you to understand what this variable is. So we'll be using the CTK entry class to create the entry field. So where you want to see this entry field, we want to see this entry field in our window. So we'll mention root here. Then we'll be mentioning the placeholder text. So placeholder text will be enter your username. Okay, and then just like we have placed our label, we also need to place our entry field. So we'll use this place method, and here we need to mention the x value and the y value. So x value will be 50 and y value will be 150. Let's see where it will be placed. So you can see it is placed here. So you can play with these values to understand where the entry fields are getting placed. Okay, suppose if I give x 100, y 200, so it will be placed here. Okay, but this doesn't look good, so we'll change the values to 50 and 150. So just like we have created the username entry, in the same way password entry will be created, and we'll change the variable name first of all. You can place multiple cursors in PyCharm by pressing the Alt key and mouse left button. So this is password entry. It will also be inside my window. Then placeholder text will be changed here. Enter your password. Okay, and then where we will be placing it, if we place at the same x and y position, then it will simply overlap, as you can see here, right? So the x value will be as it is, the y value will be changed to 200 like this. Okay, and just below this we will be creating the login button. So variable name will be login button, and login button will be created with the help of CTK button class. And again the button has to be on our window, so we'll pass root. Then the text on this button will be login, so we'll pass this, and then we will simply place it, and we'll place it at x 50 and y 250. like this. We will increase the width of these two entry fields. So what we will do here, we will add width equals to 180. So you can see the width is changed now, right? And we'll move this login button a bit in the center. So we'll change the X value of the login button to 70. Yeah, now it's fine. So here you can enter your username and here you can enter the password. So when I'm entering the password, you are able to see it, right? So I will change it to asterisk so that whenever I enter the password, we should see only asterisk symbol. So for that, in this password entry, here you can mention show equals to asterisk. Okay, so this parameter will help in displaying asterisk whenever we'll type our password. I hope you understood this. Now let's work on the functionality of this login button. And before that, when I'm bringing my mouse pointer on this button, it should change to hand symbol. So for that, we will mention another parameter which is cursor, and its value will be hand2. Hand2. Sorry, I have added it at a wrong place. I've added it inside the entry field. I have to add this inside the login button, right? So now when I'm bringing my mouse pointer on it, it is changing to hand symbol. So now let's add functionality to this login button. So to this login button, we will be passing a command equals to login. So this is the command name. So this is basically a function which will be called whenever you will click on this login button. So let's define this function at the top. Here we'll write def login. And let me just simply print something just to make you understand what will happen when we'll click on that button. So whenever I'll click on this login button, you will see the code inside that login function that will be executed. Okay, but we don't have to print. What we have to do, firstly we will have to check if the entry fields are empty or not. So we'll write here if username entry dot get equals to null, or password entry dot get equals to null. So if username entry and password entry are empty or anyone is empty, in that case this condition will become true, right? So if this condition will be true, we will be displaying a message box that all fields are required. So in order to display a message box, you have to import it from Tkinter. So write from Tkinter import message box. So message box is there inside this Tkinter library. So we'll import it. So we'll write here message box. Make sure you provide correct indentation. Okay. Press tab for providing the correct indentation. So we'll write message box dot show error method, and first thing here we need to mention the title, which is error, and then the message will be all fields are required, or fields cannot be empty, whatever you wish. Now if I run it, so since I have not added a username or a password, if I click on this login button, it says all fields are required, right? If I'm adding one and keeping another empty, it's still the same message. When both are non-empty, then only nothing will happen for now, because in that case this if block code is not executing, and after that we don't have anything, so nothing is happening. So what we'll do, we'll add the else part, or in fact elif part. So elif username entry dot get equals to Faizan. So if on the username entry we get this username Faizan, or sorry, and password entry dot get equals to 1234, and on the password entry we get this user password 1234, then only this condition will be true. So when the username entry will have Faizan as the username and 1234 as the password in the password entry, then only this condition will be true. Okay, because we are using AND here. So in that case, we'll again display a message box, and this time we'll show info. The title will be success, and the message will be login is successful. Okay, so when the user will enter correct username and correct password, then this condition will become true and this message will be displayed. Otherwise, we'll go to the else part, and in the else part we'll again show an error message box. The title will be error and the message will be login, sorry, wrong credentials or something like that. Okay, let's run and see. So when not entering any details, it says all fields are required. When I'm entering some random wrong details, it says wrong credentials, right? Else part code is executed in this case. And if I'm mentioning the correct username and the correct password, the elif code is executed. So you can see login is successful. Once we click OK, nothing is happening for now. So what we want once login is successful. Once login is successful, we will be closing this login page. So we'll write root.destroy. Okay, we'll close this using this destroy method, and then we will import a new Python file which will be EMS. EMS stands for Employee Management System. So this Python file is not yet created. We are simply importing this Python file in our code here. Okay, so let's create this Python file. So we'll right click here, we'll go to new and we'll go to Python file, and here we'll write EMS. So this is our Python file where we will write the code for Employee Management System window, and we can rename this main.py to login.py. So we will right click and we'll go to this refactor option, and here we can see rename. So it will be login.py like this. So now it will be clear, this is our login file and this is our employee management system file. Let me run this again. We are not seeing the run option here. Why is that? I think I have made a mistake here. So this doesn't look like a Python file, so we will right click on it and we will overwrite file type. So we'll choose Python from here. Yeah, now it became a Python file. Now if we run it, you can see. Okay, so once our credentials are correct, we will be importing this EMS Python file. Now let's work on this EMS Python file. Let me show you the original project once. So after entering the details, as soon as I click on this login, you can see login successful, and this is our employee management system. So again we need to create a window first of all. we'll provide the title to that window, we'll set the width and the height of this window. Okay, and then we will be adding this background image to our window. After that, we'll be adding these labels, these entry fields. Okay, then we will create this tree view. This is the tree view. Okay, and then we will create these buttons. Okay, and then later on we will be adding functionality to these buttons. So let's see how we can create this. So again, here we will be importing CustomTkinter module. So we'll write from CustomTkinter import asterisk. So we are writing this line so that we can use all the classes and methods that are present inside this file, CustomTkinter module file, inside this Python file. So this time again we'll create a window. I'll name the window variable as window. Here we have named it root, right? So we'll have to use the same class ctk, and then in order to display our window on the screen, we'll use this main loop method. Will be main loop, and then we'll set the title of our window. So title will be employee management system. Okay, now if we run this file, right click and run EMS, you can see we got the window. Now let's fix the size of our window. So we will be using geometry method. So the width of our window will be 930 and the height will be 582 or 580. Now if we run it, you can see the window size is changed. Again we will disable this maximize button so that our window is of fixed size. So we'll use window dot resizable method, and here we'll pass false value for the width and false value for the height. We can pass 0,0 or false, false. Both work same. So it is disabled now. Okay. Now let's add our top image here. So I'll get that image from my original project. This is bg.jpg. I'll paste here. So this is that image. Don't worry, I will be attaching these images in the description of this video. So let's add this image. So adding the image will be similar to this one only. Firstly, we will be opening the image in our code. We'll mention its size, and then we will create its object using the ctk image class, and we'll name it image. Okay, this is the object variable, and then we can use this image variable to place it on a label. So we'll write ctk image class, and here we'll write image dot open method. So as you know, image is a part of pillow library. So we'll import here from pil import image class like this. Okay, and we'll mention the file name here, which is bg.jpg, and then we'll mention the size of the image. As you can see, the size is 930, 158. 930, 158 like this, and we'll create its object variable logo. Okay, and if I run at this stage, you won't be able to see the logo. The reason is you have just imported the image in your code, but you have not added it on a label. So we'll create one label, CTK label, and this label will be inside my window. So we'll pass window object here, and then we'll mention the image name, which is logo. Okay, and we'll name this label logo label, like this. Now if I run it, still you won't see it because you have just created the label, but you have not placed this label on your window. So I'll write logo label dot grid method. This time, instead of place, I am using grid method. Grid divides your window in the form of rows and columns. So you just have to mention the row value and the column value. So when you see everything is divided in the form of row and columns, in that case we use grid method. And when we have to place something at some particular position, xy position, then we use the place method. Okay, now if we run it, so you can see that it is added at row 0 and column 0 value. And again we are seeing this CTK label text, so we have to make the text as empty, like this. Okay, after that what we need to add, if I run this original project, let me run this main file directly. Yeah, so we need to add these labels and the corresponding entry fields, and these are known as combo boxes. So as you can see this window, as I told you, this looks in the form of rows and columns, right? So this section is at some row and column, and this section is at some row and column. Okay, so it's easier. Otherwise you can achieve the same thing using the place method also, but grid is easier here. You will understand this a bit later. So what I will do, I will create one left frame inside which I will add the labels and the corresponding entry fields, and then I will create a right frame inside which I will add this tree view. Okay, so we'll divide this section into two frames, left frame and right frame, and this bottom section will be a button frame inside which we will be adding these buttons. By using frames, it becomes easy to add these labels, entry fields and everything. Let's see how. So I'll create two frames here, left frame, and frames are created with the help of CTK frame class. Frames are nothing but the containers where we can add labels, entry fields, buttons, etc. This frame will be inside my window only. Okay, and then we will simply grid this frame. So since we already have logo label graded at row 0, column 0, so we will not be gridding it at row 0, column 0. If we do that, what we will see as the result, let's see. You can see the frame is added here on top of it. We don't want this thing to happen, so we'll change the row value to 1. So this is row 0 and this is row 1, right? Just like we have created the left frame, we'll create the right frame. If I run this, you are not seeing the right frame because it is overlapped on the left frame. So in order to see the right frame, we will change the column value to 1. So left frame is at column 0, the right frame will be at column 1. Again, we are not seeing the right frame. The reason is that this logo image is added at row 0 and column 0. So column 1 will start after this logo is completed, right? So column 1 will start from this position. So that's why we are not able to see that right frame. So what I will do, I will give this logo label 2 column spaces. So I write column span equals to 2. So now this logo label will take 2 column spaces. So once it will take 2 column spaces, so this is at row 1 column 0 and this is at row 1 column 1. So this logo label is taking 2 column spaces. I hope you are getting this. So this is our left frame and this is our right frame. Here we will be adding those labels ID, name, phone, role and all that, and the corresponding entry fields. Here we will be adding our tree view. So let's start adding. So firstly we'll be adding the ID label, and the label will be added with the help of CTK label class. This label will now be inside my left frame, okay, because I want to add this inside my left frame. So we are passing left frame here. Then the text will be ID, okay. After that we will mention the font, sorry, it will be font for the text. The styling will be Arial. Size of the text will be 18 and I'll make the text as bold. And then I need to grid it in order to see it on the window. So since inside this left frame we don't have anything and we want to add this ID label at the top position, right? So we'll mention row 0 and column 0. So you can see that ID label is added inside the left frame. This size will increase as we keep on adding. So ID label is added. Just next to this ID label at column 1, we will be adding its entry field. So write ID entry equals to CTK entry, and this will also be inside my left frame, okay, and then we'll simply grid it at row 0 and column 1. So just next to this ID we are getting its entry field. Alright, we will provide font for this text and the width to this entry field. So here we will mention the font. Styling will be Arial only. Size of the text will be 15 and I'll make the text as bold, and then the width of the entry field will be 180, like this, okay. Now we want to add spacing between this entry field and this ID label, as you can't see any space between the two. So to this ID label grid method we have to pass pad x and we'll pass 20 pixels. So you'll see spacing between the two, right? So pad x is the left and the right spacing. If you want to only keep the right padding and not the left padding, what you can do, you can add it in the form of tuple like this. So now only on the right side you will see 20 pixels padding and not on the left side, like this, okay. But we want to see it on both the sides, so we'll just keep 20. So it will be on the left side and the right side. Just like we have added ID label and ID entry field, in the same way we will be adding phone label and phone entry field, and name label and name entry field. So I will copy this, actually I'll copy both these things, ID label and ID entry, and I'll paste here, and I'll change the names. So I'll place multiple cursors This will be changed to name label and name entry. The text here will be changed to name. Okay, font will remain as it is. Okay, row value will change here. So name label has to be just below the ID label. So ID label is at row 0, so name label will be at row 1. Column will be 0 only. Then its entry field will also be at row 1. Okay, because name label and name entry has to be at same row. After name entry, we have phone entry and phone label. So this will become phone label and phone entry. The text will be changed to phone. Okay, row value will be changed to 2, and here also it will be 2. Now if I run this, you can see ID, name, phone is added. Just like we have added pad X, means horizontal spacing, we also need to add vertical spacing, means pad Y. So to these labels only, to this grid method of the labels, will mention pad Y equals to 15. It looks like this. We don't have to add padding in this entry fields, we are only adding in labels, right? So here we have to add pad Y equals to 15. I will keep these labels sticked on the left hand side. So for that, to these labels only, we'll be adding sticky equals to west. So you can see that they are sticked on the left hand side. After this phone, we have role, that will be a combo box, role label and role combo box. So we'll copy this phone label and we'll paste here. So this one will be role label, text will change to role, row value will be 3, everything else will remain as it is. So we got the role. After this, we need to create a combo box where we will see options for the role. So I'll give the name as role box and it will be a CTK combo box, and this will again be inside my left frame. Okay, then we need to mention the values, what values you will see as options inside this combo box. So we'll mention role options. So this is the variable. Now we need to add values inside this variable. So we'll write here role options, and this will be in the form of a list. So here we will be adding the options like web developer. Okay, I have copied the options from my original project and pasting them here. Okay, so these are the options. So again, after creating the combo box, we will have to grid it, otherwise we won't be able to see it. So we'll write role box dot grid, and this will be graded at row 4 and column 1, like this. Okay, and these are the options. We are seeing it at a wrong position. Why? Yeah, it has to be at row 3 because role label is at row 3. So its combo box will also be at row 3, like this. Okay, will have to pass the same width as the entry field, so that width is same for all. Like this. And then we will add the font. Like this. Okay. After this role, then we have gender. So firstly we will be creating the gender label. So I'll copy this role label and I'll paste here. So this will become gender label. Text here will be changed to gender. Row value will become 4. Everything else will remain as it is. And just next to it, we'll have to create the combo box. So I'll copy the combo box from here and I'll paste here. I'll change the name of the combo box. So instead of role box, this will become gender box. Okay. Instead of role options, we'll create gender options variable, and we will define that variable here, gender underscore options, and this will be a list. And here we'll have two options, male comma female, like this. Everything else will remain same. Row value will change here, it will change to 4. Column will be 1 only. This is showing error because I forgot to add equal to symbol here. Okay, so I hope you understood this. And the last option, the last row is of salary. So I'll copy the label, I'll name it salary label. The text here will change to salary, row will be changed to 5. Okay, and then I'll copy one entry field, because this time we'll add entry field corresponding to the salary label. So this will be salary entry. Row value will be changed to 5. Everything else will remain same, like this. If you see here, we are able to edit this. So we don't want this thing to happen, right? So what we will do, we will go to these combo boxes, and here we will add state to read only. So now whatever the user will select, he will not be able to edit that. Okay, and one more thing, if I run again, you are not seeing by default any role or by default any gender here. So we'll set that. So here we'll write role box dot set, and we'll set role option first element, which is web developer. Okay, so web developer will be set here, as you can see here. Similarly, in case of gender, we'll set male. So we'll write gender box dot set, and we'll set male here, or you can use gender options index 0. Okay, so if you are fine with the background color of this window, then it's okay, but I will be using the same background color as I've used in my original project. So in order to set the background color, you can go back here. Here you can mention window dot configure, and you can mention FG color, which is the foreground color, I mean the background color, and the color code. You can either mention the color code, the RGB value, or directly the color name. All three will work fine. Okay. So this is the background color. Similarly, I will give the same background color to this frame also. So I'll go to this left frame, FG color as this color code. Okay. And then I need to change the color of these labels, text color. So I'll mention here text color as white. So you can see ID color is changed to white. In the same way, we will add it to other labels. Name label, then phone label, then role label, and then gender label, and last salary label. So I hope this is clear to you. Let me show you the original project. So firstly, let's add these four inside the right frame. So after creating this right frame, after that we'll create the combo box. So combo box, as you know, is created like this. So we'll copy this role box and we'll paste here. Firstly, now it won't be inside left frame, it will be inside your right frame. Okay, then you need to mention the values. So it will be search options, right? And I'll change the variable name to search box. Okay, I won't add any width, so by default whatever will be the width, that will be displayed. And similarly, I won't add any font, it will take the by default font. Okay, and row value will start from 0, column will also be 0. Why row 0, column 0? Because this is the first thing we are adding inside this right frame, right? So let's add search options list here. So there's ID, there's name, phone, role, gender, and salary. Let's run and see. So here we are getting that, right? But we need to set some by default value. So we'll write search box dot set and we'll set search by, like this. Okay, and just next to this we have to create an entry field. So I'll copy one entry field from the above and we'll paste here. I'll name it search entry. Okay, I will not add any font and any width. Let's run. We are not able to see it. Actually we are able to see it, but we are seeing it on the left frame here, right? Because left frame is mentioned here. We need to change it to right frame. Row value will be 0, column will be 1, because we want to see it just next to this search box, right? Like this. After that we need to create these two buttons, search button and show all button. So as you know, button is created with the help of CTK button class, and this button will be inside my right frame. The text on this button will be search. Okay, and then I will simply grid it. So I'll write search button dot grid, row will be 0, column will be 2. Okay, like this. I will decrease its width. So I'll keep width to 100 pixels, like this. In the same way, we have to create show all show all button. Okay, the text will be changed to show all, column value will change to 3, like this. Okay, as you can see, there is no space between these buttons and these entry fields, horizontal spacing, right? This will be fixed on its own when we will add the tree view, or if you want, you can add the paddocks. Let's firstly add the tree view. So in order to create the tree view, we will be requiring one module which is a part of Tkinter module. So we will import it like this: from Tkinter import ttk. Okay, this is the extension of Tkinter module. Now we can use treeview class which is there inside ttk. So we'll write ttk dot treeview. Okay, this class will help in creating the tree view. So firstly, where do you want to see this tree view? We want to see this tree view inside the right frame, so we'll mention that, and then we will create its object, so we'll call it tree, and then we will grid it. So we'll write tree dot grid, row value will be 1 and column will be 0. Okay, why row 1? Because at row 0 we already have uh, these two buttons, and then this entry field, and then this combo box, right? So this tree view has to be just below that. So here you can see that our tree view is created. Okay, but it's not coming in the center, it's coming at column 0, right? Because this combo box is at column 0. So what we will do, we will give 4 column spaces to this tree view so that it can take 4 column spaces and be in the center. So here we will mention column span equals to 4. So now this tree view will take 4 column spaces. Okay, after that we will provide height to this tree view. So we'll write height equals to 13. This is the same height that I have used in my original project. Okay, and then we will mention the columns for this tree view. So we'll write tree, and in square brackets we'll pass columns parameter, and its value will be the column names, which will be id, name, role, gender, salary. Okay, now if I run it, you can see that columns are created. Okay, and now let's provide heading to these columns. So we'll write tree dot heading, and here we'll mention the column which is id. Okay, and then the text for that column, the text will also be id, like this. So on running this, you can see that the heading is added. Similarly, we will add other headings. So we'll copy this with the help of Control D in PyCharm. We'll change the column name to name and the text will be name, right? Similarly, this is the column role and the text on this column will also be role. Then next column name is gender, its text will also be gender. Then next column is salary and this one also be salary. We forgot to add phone here. Phone column should also be there. Cut it from here. After name we'll add phone here. So this will be phone column and text here will be phone. Now on running this, you can see ID, name, phone, role, and the remaining column names are out of this window. This is because this first column is extra here. Okay, so we only need to see these headings. Okay, we don't need to see this by default column. This is the by default column that we get. We don't need this column. So what we'll do, we'll modify this tree view. So we'll write tree.config and here we will show only headings. Now if we run it, you won't be able to see that default column. Okay, so salary column we still can't see. So what we'll do, we will change the width of these columns. So we'll write tree.column. We have to mention the column name. First column is ID, so we'll mention the name here. Okay, and then we want the text, I mean the heading, to be displayed at the center. Okay, so we'll write anchor center and then we'll mention the width. What width will be of this column? So I'll mention width as 100. So you can see the width is changed here. Okay, and the text is at the center position. It's actually at the center only, so if you don't want to add this anchor tag, then also it's fine, right? It's at the center position by default. Similarly, we will do this for other columns. So next column is name. Its width that I'm going to take is 160. Then after that we have phone column. Its width will also be 160. Then we have role column. Its width I'll change to 200. After that, gender, its width will be 100 only, and then last one will be salary and its width will be 140. You can increase or decrease the width according to your choice. Okay, you can see the font is very small, right? So what we will do, we will style the font. So in order to style the font, we'll have to import one class with ttk.style and we'll name the object as style. Okay, and now we can change the font of the tree view headings. So we'll write style.configure and here we'll mention tree view dot heading because we are going to change the font of tree view heading. So we are mentioning that, and here we'll mention the font. So the styling will be Arial, size will be 18 and the headings will be bold, like this. After that I will be adding a little padding to these buttons. So I will go to the show all button and here we will mention pad y equals to 5 pixels. So if I'm adding pad y to one of the button, So that same padding will be added to all these widgets. Okay, so top and bottom 5 pixel padding is added. Okay, the same will be applied to all others. Remaining things we will be adding later on to this tree view. For now, let's add the buttons at the bottom. So for adding the buttons, we will be creating the button frame. So write button frame equals to CTK frame, and this frame will be inside my window. And then where we will grid this row value, what will be the row value? So if you go at the top, so if you see this left frame is inside your window and this is at row 1 column 0, right? So this has to be at row 2 because we need this button frame just below the left frame, right? And column will be 0. So you can see a button frame is added here, right? So when we are running this code, we are seeing the window at different positions, right, from the x and the y axis. So what we'll do, we'll fix it. So we'll go here and we'll mention 100 distance from the x axis and 100 distance from the y axis. So now every time you will learn, the window will be fixed from the x axis and the y axis. Its position will be fixed. So if I run it again, you will every time you will see it at this position only from the x and y axis. I hope this is clear. Now inside this button frame, we will be adding all the buttons. So our first button will be new button and we'll use CTK button class. This button has to be inside the button frame. The text on this button will be new employee. We will then grid this. So new button dot grid, row value will be 0 and column will be 0. Why row 0 column 0? Because this is the first thing we are adding inside this button frame. So I hope you understood the importance of the frame. You can add the things inside that frame from the start only. If you will not add the frames and directly add the widgets on the window, then the row value column will be complicated there. If I run it, you can see that we are getting this button here. Okay, we'll be adding vertical padding, pad y equals to 5 pixels like this, and then we'll be providing font for the text. So the styling will be Arial, size of the text will be 15 and it will be bold. Okay, then I will add width, that will be 160. Okay, and then we'll add corner radius of 15 pixels like this. In the same way, we will be adding other buttons just next to this new employee. So we will be copying this button. I'll paste here. This will be add button. The text here will be changed to add employee button. Column will be changed to 1. Okay, I will add spacing between these two. So we'll add pad x equals to 5 pixels. It will be pad x like this. After add employee, next will be update employee. Text will be update, column will be changed to 2. After update, we'll add delete employee. So this one will be delete button. The text here will be changed to delete employee. Column value will be changed to 2. Sorry, it will be 3. And then delete all. Delete all button. The text will be delete all. This will delete all the records. Okay, column value will be changed here to 4. Yeah, like this. So you can see, as I have mentioned, column 0 to this uh, button frame, right? So it is taking column 0 space only, right? Because column 1 is starting from this position. So that's why this right frame is going outside of this screen. So what I will do, I will provide column span of 2. So now this button frame will take 2 column spaces. I made the mistake here in the spelling. Yeah, so now you can see it's perfectly done. Now we will change the background color of this button frame so that it matches the background color of this frame. Okay, left frame of this right frame. So we will mention FG color #161C30 like this. We forgot to attach the scroll bar to this tree view, so we'll do that. So we can access the scroll bar class with the help of ttk.scrollbar. And where do you want to see this scroll bar? Inside the right frame, right? And this scroll bar orient has to be vertical. Okay, and then I will grade it. So I'll write scroll bar. Okay, so this is the object variable name, and now we can use the grid method with the help of this object variable. Row value will be 0 and column will be 4. Why 4? Because we want to see on the right hand side. So if I run it, you can see that the scroll bar is attached here. I have mentioned row value as 0, that is why you are seeing it at this position. I will change it to 1. So now you can see it at this position, right? We will stick this scroll bar completely on the north south direction. So we'll mention here sticky equals to north south like this. Okay, so it is full scroll bar. Now let's start adding functionality to these buttons. So first of all, we will add functionality to this add employee button. So what do we want to see once the user fills these details in the entry fields and clicks on this add employee button, then these details should be filled inside this tree view under these column names. And if any one of these entry fields is empty, then we should see an error message that all fields are required. Let me show you this thing in my original project. So here I need to enter the ID, some name, some phone number, then some role, gender, and if I am not entering any salary and directly try to add employee, it says fields cannot be empty. So I need to enter the salary here, and now it says data has been inserted. So basically all this data that we entered inside these entry fields this data was stored inside the MySQL database, and from there that data was fetched and was added in this tree view. So the same thing we have to do here. So firstly, if the user is not entering any of these details, we will display a message box, and if user enters all these details, then those details should be stored in MySQL database. And later we will display the stored data in MySQL in this tree view. Imagine MySQL as a super smart digital locker for your stuff. Instead of physical shelves, it has digital tables to organize things, like one for your books, another for your clothes, and so on. Each table is like a different section in your locker. MySQL is like a special key that helps you open and manage this digital locker. It lets you add new things like books or clothes and find stuff quickly whenever you need it. So MySQL is basically a super helpful tool that keeps your digital stuff organized, just like a magical key for your digital locker. So I hope you understood what MySQL database is. So you need to install that on your PC. I will attach the link of how to download and install MySQL database in the description of this video. After installing MySQL database, you can start adding functionality to this add employee button. So here we have this add button. We will be passing a command to this add button. So write here command equals to add employee, like this. Okay, and this is nothing but a function name, so we need to define this function. So we'll define this at the top here, just after these import lines. So here you can add a comment that we will be writing functions here. Okay, and here you can add the comment that this was the GUI part. So we'll define the functions here, def add employee. Okay, so firstly we will check if the fields are empty or not. So for that we will write here if id entry dot get equals to null, or phone entry dot get equals to null, or name entry dot get equals to null, or salary entry dot get equals to null. Okay, so if all these fields are empty or any one out of these fields are empty, in that case this condition will become true and we will display a message box that all fields are required. So in order to display a message box we need to import it from tkinter. So just like we imported this ttk, in the same way we will import this message box. So here we'll write message box dot show error. So this show error method takes two arguments. First is the title and the second is the message. So title will be error only and the message will be all fields are required. So if I run it, so I have not added this role combo box and this gender combo box because these already have some options selected, right? So if these fields are empty and you try to click on this add employee, you can see all fields are required. Okay, so this if condition is getting true and you are seeing the message box. But if some data is there in these fields, Now once I click on this add employee, you will not see that error message box, okay, because the if condition is not being true. So I hope you are getting this. Let me just simply print my name here, so you will understand what is happening. So whenever you will click on this add employee button, the code that is inside this function, that code will be executed. Okay, so this code is getting executed. So firstly this print statement is getting executed, and then the if block is getting executed. Okay, I hope this is clear to you. And if the fields are not empty, in that case we will go to the else part, and in the else part I want that data to be stored in MySQL database, right? So I will add database related code in another Python file. So you can right click here, go to new and select Python file, and here you can provide the Python file name. I'll go with database.py. Okay, and this is the database.py file where we will write the functions related to the database. Okay, coming back here, I will import this file here, import database. Okay, so I have imported this file here in our code, and we'll go to this database.py, and here I'll define one function, def insert. Okay, and for now I'll just pass, or I can just simply print something like, for example, insert, and we'll go back to this file, and here how to access this insert function in this ems.py file. I'll have to write firstly the file name dot insert method like this. Okay, just like we were doing here when we were importing this ttk, right? So we were mentioning the file name dot scroll bar or dot style method, right? Similarly, when we were importing message box, so message box dot show error. In the same way we will do it here. So this is the file that we have created, and we have imported this file. Okay, and we are accessing its method dot insert. Okay, so what we will do, we will pass some arguments here, like for example we'll pass id dot get id entry dot get. So whatever will be there on the id entry, that we will pass to this insert method. Okay, similarly we will pass name entry data, similarly phone entry data, then role box dot get method. So this will give you whatever option that you have selected, okay, for the role. Then similarly gender box dot get, and then salary entry dot get, like this. So these are the parameters that I am passing to this insert method. Okay, and this insert method will receive those parameters. So I'll create few variables to receive those parameters. So id entry, whatever id entry will pass, that will be received inside this id variable. Okay, similarly name, phone, role, gender, and salary. So these variables values will go in these variables, right? I hope you are getting this. Okay, let me just print these variables so we'll understand it better. Let me just print these 4 variables only. Okay, now let me run this. So if these fields will be empty, you will see all fields are required error message, and if these fields are not empty, in that case what you will see, you can see that we are getting the values here: ID 4, name Faizan, phone number, and the role, right? We have printed these values only. I hope you are getting this, right? So what we have to do, we firstly have to connect with the database, right? So how to connect with the database? So for connecting your Python code with MySQL database, you will have to install one external module, which is PyMySQL. So just type here pip install PyMySQL like this. And if you are unable to install the module from here, then you can go to Python packages and simply search for PyMySQL here. Okay, you will see the result and you can simply click on install button. It will be installed for you. Okay. So after installing PyMySQL, you can simply import it like this. And after importing it, now you can establish the connection with MySQL database. So you'll write PyMySQL dot connect method, and to this connect method you have to pass the host name, which is localhost, then the username, which will be root, and then the password, which will be 1234. Okay, this is the same password which you set while installing MySQL database. And I'll name this connection as con. And with the help of this connection, we will create a cursor which will help in executing MySQL commands. Commands for inserting data in MySQL database, or to fetch the data from MySQL database, or to update some data, or to delete some data. Okay, so we'll write con dot cursor. Okay, and we'll call it my cursor like this. So this variable will help in executing SQL commands. Okay, and I'll keep it in try and except block. So sometimes MySQL connection is not established. In that case, this except block code will be executed instead of the try block code. Okay, so in that case we will display a message box. So I'll import the message box here. So I'll write from tkinter import message box like this. So we'll display a message box and we'll show error. Title will be error and the message will be something went wrong. A message something like this. Okay, so whenever you see this something went wrong error message, in that case you just have to open your MySQL command line client. Like for example, if I show you here, so you just have to open this command line client, enter the password, and then you can simply close it and you can rerun this code, and this time you won't see this error, something went wrong error. Okay, so if these details are wrong, then also you will see this error message. So make sure you enter the correct host name, username, and the password. And I'll keep this code inside a function. So I'll select this code and will press tab, and here we'll mention def connect database. So this is the function name. Okay, and I'm keeping this code inside this connect database function. Okay, so if everything is correct, then this try block code will be executed, and if something is wrong, then this error message will be displayed that something went wrong. In that case, you just have to open your MySQL app, command line client or workbench, and simply open it, enter the password, and then you can rerun your code, this Python code again, and your error will be resolved. Okay, so once you see this message, after that we just want to return from here. Okay, we don't want further code to be executed. And once the connection is established, after that what do we want to do? We want to create the database, and then we want to create the table, right? So what commands we need to execute here in order to create the database? Let's see. So as I told you, we will use this variable to execute the commands, right? MySQL commands, SQL commands. So we'll write here my cursor dot execute. So this is the method which will execute the SQL commands. We'll pass the query here. So the query will be passed in the form of a string. So we'll write here create database, and then the database name, which can be employee data, like this. So this is the first command. So with the help of this command, a database will be created with this name, employee data, and then we will use that database. So we will execute one more query, use this database after it is created. Okay, once we are in this database, then we need to create the table for this database. So we'll write here my cursor dot execute create table, and then the table name we need to mention. So the table that I'm going to give is data. So this is the table name, create table data, and inside these parentheses we need to mention the column names and their data types. So first column will be ID, and it will be a variable character data type. So it can store alphanumeric characters, and maximum length of the ID can be 30 characters. Okay, or you can reduce it to 20 characters, it's up to you. Then second will be name column, and again it will be varchar type, and it will have max 50 characters. After that, phone can also be varchar type, and it can have 15 characters. Okay, ID, name, phone, and then we have role. Role can also be of varchar type, and it can have 50 characters. Then gender, it will also be varchar. So gender column can contain 20 characters. After that, salary, this will be decimal, and firstly we need to mention how many digit salary, so 10 digits, and then the decimal places, so it can contain up to 2 decimal places. I hope you are getting this. So this is how you create the database, and then you use that database which is created, and then you create the table. So this is the way of creating the database in the Python code. Okay, now suppose you are running this code for the first time. So when you are running the code for the first time, suppose the connection is established successfully. After that, these lines will be executed, right? So your database will be created, then you will be moved to this database, and then this table data will be created with these columns: ID, name, phone, role, gender, and salary, right? And again, if you run this code the second time, so in the second time, again the connection will be established, but since this employee data table is already created, so you will be getting error. Okay, that database already exists. So in that case, this code will give you an error, right? Similarly, this table is already created, so you will be getting error. So what I'll be doing, I will add another clause here: create database if not exists. Okay, similarly, we will add this clause here also. So now when you will run the code the second time, since this employee data is already created, so it won't create the database again, and also it will not give you any error. Okay. Similarly, the data table, if it is already created, then it won't create again, and also it won't give you any error. Otherwise, you will be getting error if you will not add this clause if not exists. I hope you are getting this. So after writing this much code, if you run at this stage, nothing will happen because you have just defined the function but you have not called it. So what we will do, we will call it directly from here. Okay, so we'll write connect database. So whenever you will run the code, your database connection will be established. Okay, so let's run this code. Stop and rerun. Okay, database connection is established. Now we can check if employee data database is created or not. So we can simply open MySQL command line client, and here we can enter the password and we can write the command show databases semicolon. So here you can see employee data database is created, right? So when you are running your code, since you have imported this database file, so this file code is getting executed, and in this file you are calling this connect database function, right? So this code is getting executed when you are running ems.py file. I hope you are getting this. Okay, and now inside we will move inside this, so we'll write use employee data. Okay, so database is changed. Now we can see tables inside this database. So there's this database table data, right? And we can check its description. So write disk and data. So you can see these are the fields. We have ID, name, phone, role, gender, salary. Okay, these are the column names, and then these are the data types, right? And now if you have to see what data is there inside this data table, so you'll have to write this query: select asterisk from data. And since we have not inserted any data, so we are getting empty set here. I hope this is clear. So I hope you understood how to establish the connection with the database. So this is the code to establish the connection with the database. Okay, and this is the code for creating the database and then creating the table. Now going back to the insert method. Okay, so what we were doing, when we are clicking on add employee button, then this function is getting called, and if the fields are empty, then this message will be displayed that all fields are required. Otherwise, this insert method will be called, and to this method we have passed these details, right? So we don't have to print anything. What we have to do, we have to execute the command. So we can use this variable myCursor, but this variable can't be used directly because this variable is defined inside this connect database function. So in order to use this in some other function, you will have to make this variable as global. So here you can write as global myCursor. Now, once you make this variable as global, now you can use this variable in some other function. You can see the error is gone, red line is gone. Okay, so my cursor dot execute, and here we will execute the query to insert the data in the database. So we'll write insert into data table values, and here we'll pass the placeholders. So we have total how many values? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 values, right? So I'll pass 6 placeholders. Okay, and these placeholders will be replaced with these variables. Okay, so we'll pass id comma name comma phone comma role comma gender comma salary. Okay, so in place of these %s, whatever values that will be inside these variables, that will be simply placed there. Okay, that's why these are known as placeholders. So what we are doing, we are simply inserting into this data table and these values: id, name, phone, role, gender and salary. Okay, so as you can see here that we have created the table, and these were the column names: id, name, phone, role, gender, salary, right? So inside these columns only, the values that are there inside these variables, that will be added. I hope you are getting this. If I will run at this stage, then no data will be inserted in this data table, because we also need to commit our changes. After executing, we also need to commit our changes. So we will be using this con variable that we created here. Okay, so this variable helps in committing our changes, but again this variable is defined inside this function and we are using in some other function. So in order to use it, you have to make it global like this, and now you can use it here. So con dot connect, sorry, con dot commit. Okay, now once you commit your changes, then only data will be inserted inside this data table. I hope you are getting this. So let me repeat myself. So when you will click add employee button, if fields are not empty, then the else code will be executed, and in the else code we are calling this insert method, okay, which is a part of database file. So to the insert method, we are passing the values that we are getting from the entry fields, these entry fields, right? ID entry, name entry, phone entry, and so on. So these values will go inside these variables, okay, and we are storing these values in this data table that we created above. I hope you are getting this. Now if I run it, if I enter employee ID, name, phone number, role, gender, and the salary. Let me change the role. If I click on this add employee, I am getting some error here. Error says incorrect decimal value 45 comma 000 for column salary at row 1. So basically we have mentioned salary data type as decimal, right? So we won't be able to use the comma in between the number. Okay, otherwise what you can do is you can make this salary also as varchar. Okay, so it can contain alphanumeric characters. Then let me add the employee again. Now if I click on add employee, you can see we are not seeing any error. Okay, if I go to the MySQL database, okay, and if I write this command again, select asterisk from data table, now you can see that the data is inserted inside this data table, right? The ID is inserted inside ID column, the name, phone, role, gender, and the salary. So I hope you understood how we can insert the data inside the database, right? It's easy. Now, just like in our original project, if we try to add employee with the same ID, then it will not work. Let me show you. As you can see, it says ID already exists, right? So the same functionality we need to add there also, that if I am entering the same ID again, if I am trying to enter EMP1 again and try to add employee, it should give us error message that ID already exists. But right now, if I will do it, that data will be inserted because no condition is applied currently. Okay. So what we will do, we will check another condition here, elif database dot id exists. So this is the function that we need to define. This will return either true or false. If it is returning us false, it means ID is unique, it is not repeated. So this elif condition will be false and nothing will happen. Okay, we will go to the else code. And if this gives us true, it means ID already exists. In that case, we will display a message box, and this time the message will be changed to ID already exists, like this. Okay, so we need to define this ID exists method inside this database .py function. Okay, so here we can define this ID exists, and again we will execute SQL query here. We will write select count in brackets asterisk from data table where ID equals to %s, and this %s placeholder will be placed with this value which is there inside this ID variable. Okay, So this function will take some ID, okay, and we'll pass the ID to this ID exists. So we'll get the ID from the ID entry, right? So whatever ID entry will have as an ID, that will pass here, and this will go inside this ID variable, and this %s will be replaced with that ID, okay. So this query will give you the number of rows where ID matches with the ID that you are entering on the entry field, okay. So we will get that count. So we'll write result. So this variable will store the count, and here we'll write my cursor dot fetch one will fetch the record, and we can simply print this result variable to understand what we are getting. Let me run this. So if I'm entering EMP1 only, some name, some phone number, once I click on this add employee, let's see what we are getting. So you can see that we are getting 1, right? It means one row exists in the database where we have ID as EMP1, right? So we are getting a tuple as a result. So what we will do, we will return this result, okay, and we'll return the 0th index value, and we will be returning either the true value or the false value, right? So since result at 0th index is 1, which is greater than 0, so this will give you the true result, okay. Once true value is returned from here, that true value will make this elif condition as true. It means ID already exists. In that case, you will see this error message that ID already exists, okay. And if you would have received 0 instead of 1 here, in that case this condition will become false. So false value will be returned from this function. In that case, this condition will become false. It means ID is not already existing. In that case, this else code will be executed and the data will be inserted. I hope you are getting this. Let's try and run this code. So if I'm entering a unique ID, once I click on this add employee, you see we are not getting any error. If I check the database, once I press the up arrow, I will be seeing the last command that I have written here. I'll press enter and you can see the data is added. You can notice here that employee 1 data was also added here. This was because at that time we were printing the result value. We were not returning any true or false value. Okay. So in that case, this elif code was not executed. This else code was executed. So that's why similar ID employee was added. But now if you try to add the same ID employee again, you will be getting an error. So if I do that, employee 1, if I click on add employee, you can see here ID already exists, right? I hope you understood this. After this, what I want, once we add a unique ID, you can see we are not getting any error. So it means the record is added in the database. So we should see some message box on the screen that data has been inserted, okay, or data is added. So what we will do, after this insert method, we will display a message box and will show info instead of error. So the title will be success and the message will be data is added, like this, okay. After entering these details, as soon as I click on this add employee, you can see data is added. So with this message box, I'll come to know that data is added in the database. After this, what I want, once the data is added in the database, that data should be displayed in this tree view, okay, means all the records should also be displayed in this tree view. So what we'll do, we will be creating a function here, def tree view data. So from where we will call this function, as soon as our data is added inside the database, and before we see this data is added message box, our data should be displayed in the tree view also, okay. So just after the insertion is done, we'll call this function tree view data, so that we can see the data that is inserted, all the data that is there in the database table to be displayed in the tree view, okay. So inside this tree view data, we will write the code to fetch all the records of the employees from the database and display in the tree view. So we'll write database dot fetch employees, okay. Inside this database function, we will be defining this function. So we'll go here and just below this id exists function, we will define this function, and here we will execute one query. We'll write select asterisk from data table, okay. So this will select all the records that are there in the data table, okay, and we will fetch all those records in some variable, for example result. So I'll write my cursor dot fetch all, okay. So all the records will go inside this result variable, and we can return this result variable, which will contain all the records. Okay, and this returned records we can store in some variable like employees. Okay, so inside this employees variable we will have all the records of the database, and now we can insert one by one all the records in the tree view. So I'll use a loop here for employee in employees tree dot insert method, and to this insert method firstly we have to pass empty string, then end, and then values equals to employee. So we are getting the employees inside this employees variable because of this fetch employees function, which is defined inside this database.py. Here we are getting all the employees with this query. Okay, and then we are running a for loop. One by one all the records will be inserted in the tree view, one after the other. Let's run and see. Once I click this add employee, you can see data is added and all the records that were there in the database that are now displayed on this tree view. And suppose if I change the employee ID here and change the name also, and if I try to add employee, see data is added, but what is happening inside this tree view? You can see that the earlier data is there, okay, the previous data, and the new data is added just after that from here onwards, right? So what we want, firstly this previous data should be deleted, which is already there, and then the updated data should be inserted in the tree view with the new record. I hope you are getting this. Otherwise the data will be duplicated in the tree view. So just before inserting the data in the tree view, we will delete if there is already any data there in the tree view. So we'll write here tree dot delete, and we'll delete all the childrens of tree view. So firstly everything will be deleted, and then the new records will be inserted. Now if we run it, once I click add employee, you can see data is added. Now if I change the employee ID and let me change the name, phone number, role, let's keep everything as it is. Once I click add employee, you can see that the previous data got deleted and the new data with the updated record, with the new record, is added in the database. Okay, and if you see, the font for this data is very small, right? So what we'll do, we'll change this. So we will go to where we have created our tree view here. So just like we have configured our tree view heading, here we have provided font for our tree view heading. In the same way we will configure our tree view. So we will write style.configure and we'll configure the tree view. Okay, firstly we'll provide the font. So the styling will be Arial, size of the text will be 15, and the text will be bold. Okay, now let's run. We'll have to add employee. Once I click this add employee, you can see here the font size is changed, right? Just like we have changed the font, we can also increase the row height, right? And we can also change the background color as well as this text color. So here we can mention row height as 30, then background I'll change to #161 C30, and then the text color will be represented with this foreground value, and I'll change the text color to white like this. Now if I run it, you can see here that the tree view size is changed, the text color is changed, right? And also the background color is changed. Another thing that I want to do here is when I'm running this code, we are not seeing the records here in this tree view. We are seeing it when we are adding some employee data, right? So we want to see it when we run this code. So what I'll do, I'll call this tree view data function. So whenever I'll run this code, you will see the tree view data here. Now let's see what we have to do. Let me add some data here. After entering these details, once I click this add employee, you can see data is added, right? Once I click OK, now if I want to add another data, I will have to delete this data and then this data, similarly other data, and then we will have to enter the new data, right? So what I want, once the data is added, after that all these fields should be cleared for us so that we can enter another data. So what we will do, so once our data is inserted and displayed on the tree view, after that we'll call one function clear, okay, which will simply clear all the fields for us so that we can insert a new data. So we'll define this function def clear. So basically we will be deleting everything from all the entry fields and we will reset the combo boxes. So we'll write here id entry dot delete, and we'll delete from start till end everything. Okay, similarly we'll delete from name entry everything, then from phone entry, after that there is role box, so we'll set it back to web developer, okay, and then we have gender box, we'll set it to male by default, and then we have salary entry, we will delete everything from the salary entry field. Now if I run it, let me add some data. Once I click on this add employee, you can see data is added here and data is also deleted from these fields, right? And these are set back to the original options. And now we can directly enter the details again of some another employee. Now if I show you the original project, here if you see, once I select some row, its data is entered inside these entry fields. So this is the functionality that we also want in our project. So whenever we are selecting any row, the previous row data is getting deleted and the new row data is getting added, right? So we want to see this functionality. So we'll create one function here, def selection. So inside this function, we'll check if some data is selected or not, right? So we can check that with the help of tree.selection method. Okay, this selection method will give us selected item number. Okay, it will be in the form of a tuple. We can even print this just to make you understand what will be there inside this variable. So if I will run at this stage, nothing will happen, right? Because we have just defined the function, but we have not called it. So let's call this function. We'll call it directly. So we'll write here window dot bind, and we'll bind it with the button release. So we'll write here button release, and we'll call this selection function without parentheses like this. So whenever we will release the button, the selection function will be called, and whatever code that you are writing inside it, that code will be executed. Okay, so on running this, as soon as I click anywhere, you can see that we are getting some error. It says selection takes 0 positional argument but 1 was given. So when we click, some argument is passed to this selection function. Okay, so whenever we bind some key, in this case mouse left button or mouse key, okay, so some parameter or some value is passed to the selection function. So we need to receive this in some variable. It can be any variable like event. Now if I run this, so when I'm clicking anywhere, you can see I'm getting m tuple, right? And if I'm selecting any row, you can see we are getting the ID of that row, right? So whenever you will select any row, its ID will go inside this selected item variable, and that we are printing. But we don't have to print anything. We have to check here that if selected item means if this tuple is not empty, it means you are selecting some row, right? If this selected item is not empty, it means you are selecting some row. If it is, if you are clicking somewhere else, then you are getting null tuple, right? Empty tuple. In that case, this condition will not be true. So this condition will only be true when you will select any row. So when you are selecting any row, what I simply want the data that is there in that row, that should be filled in the entry fields, corresponding entry fields, right? So we'll get the row here, complete row in some variable, for example row. So we'll write here tree dot item, and to this item we'll pass the id, and we'll access the values. So the values will go inside this row variable. We can print this row variable. So once I run this, as soon as I select any row, you can see that we are getting the complete record in the form of a list here, right? Now we have to insert these values in the corresponding entry fields. So we'll write here id entry dot insert. At the starting position, we will insert the first element of this row list. So this row is this list, and we are inserting its first element inside this id entry, right? Similarly, inside this name entry, at the starting position, we will insert the second element, which is the name, and then we'll insert inside the phone entry. At the 0th index, we'll insert the second element of this row list. Similarly, we will do it for others. Role box dot set, and we'll set row fourth value. Then gender box dot set row index 4, and then salary entry dot insert at the starting position row at index 5, like this. So now on running this code, if I select this data, you can see employee ID is added in employee entry field, name is added in name entry field, and so on. If I am selecting some other data, you can see that the previous data didn't get deleted, right? And we are getting the new data here. So what I'll do, just before inserting, I will use this clear function to clear everything from the fields, and then the insertion should take place. Now let's see again. So this data is inserted. Now if I select some other data, you can see the previous data got deleted and the new data is getting inserted, right? I hope this is clear to you. Now let's add the functionality of how we can update some data. Like for example, if I want to update the name here, so I'll change the name, and after changing the name, once I click this update employee, the data should be updated. The name should be updated here in the tree view, right? So behind the scene, once I'll click the update employee button, this data will be updated in the database, and then from the database, the updated data will be displayed in the tree view. And if no data is selected and user directly clicks on this update employee, in that case we should see an error message that no data is selected for updation. So I'll create one function here, def employee update or update employee, like this, and let's call this function from update button. Here we have this update button. We'll pass command here, command equals to update employee without parenthesis. Okay, so inside this function, firstly we'll check if some data is selected or not. So for that we'll write tree.selection. This gives us the ID of the data selected. Okay, so I'll store that in some variable like selected item. Okay, and here I'll mention that if not selected item, it means if data is not selected. In that case, we'll display a message box and will show error. Title will be error and the message will be select data to update. So if I run it, if you are not selecting any data and try to click on this update employee, you can see select data to update. And once I select data and click on this update employee, nothing is happening because we have not added any code after that, right? So once you select the data, you will go to the else part, and in the else part I will call one function which will be update function, and this function I'll define inside this database file. So I'll go here, def update. Okay, so this function will take some arguments. Okay, so where we are calling it, we have to pass some arguments to this function. ID entry dot get. Okay, then name entry dot get, phone entry dot get, role box dot get, gender box dot get, and salary entry dot get. Okay, so we will pass these values from the entry fields to this update function, and we need to receive these values in some variables, like ID will be received in this ID variable, name will be received in this new name variable, similarly phone will be received in this new phone variable, role will be received in this new role variable, similarly gender will be in this new gender variable, and then salary will be in this new salary variable. Okay, so inside this update function I will be executing one query to update the data in the table. So I'll write here update data table, set name equals to %s, comma phone equals to %s, comma role equals to %s, comma gender equals to %s, comma salary equals to %s, where ID equals to %s. So corresponding to this particular ID, we will do the changes. Okay, we'll update the details, and these %s will be replaced with the values that we'll get in these variables. Okay, so we'll pass here new name, new phone, new role, new gender, new salary, and ID, like this. So once you call this update function, your data will be updated in the database. Okay, and then you need to display it on the tree view, the updated data. So for that you just need to call the tree view data function. This will display the updated records on the tree view. So this was the function, right? This simply displays the data on the tree view. And once your data is displayed on the tree view, the entry fields should be cleared. So for that we have a clear method, right? And once the entry fields are clear, we will simply display the message box and will show info. Title will be success and the message will be data is updated, like this. Let's run and see. Let's update the name here. So I will change this to Faz and I'll click on this update employee. You can see data is updated. Okay, but if I close it and rerun it, you can see that the data is actually not updated. Okay, we are again seeing that same record here, right? So this is because our changes are not properly updated. This is because we have not committed our changes. So if you see here, we have just executed the query to update, but we didn't commit our changes. So whenever we do any modifications in the database, for example, when we insert some data or when we delete some data or when we update some data, we also need to commit our changes. Okay, so we'll use this con.commit. And now if we run it again, let's change the name. Once I click this update, you can see data is updated. And now if I rerun the code, still the data is updated, right? So once you commit the changes, so your data will be updated properly. Now after this, I will add the functionality to this new employee button. So what I want, when I click on this new employee button, all these fields should be cleared, all these fields should be reset. Okay, so it's very easy actually. So we'll go to the new button and to this new button we will pass a command, and command will be nothing but this clear, right? So as you know what this clear function is doing, it is simply deleting everything, right? It is simply resetting everything. So ID, name, phone, role, gender, salary, all will be reset. So if I run it, suppose if I am selecting some row, now once I click on this new employee, you can see the data got deleted, but because this is selected, so this data is again getting inserted. So what I'll do, I will also deselect this. So when I'll click on new employee, I also want to deselect it. So what I'll do, I'll go to this command and here I will be using lambda function. So that I can pass some parameter to this clear function. If you will not use this lambda function and directly add this clear and pass parenthesis, then this function will be called when you will run the code. But I want this function to be called whenever I press this new button. Okay, so with the help of lambda, this function will only be called when you will press the new employee button. Okay, and true value will be passed to this function. So we need to receive this value in some variable. So I'll create value variable, and that true value will be received in this value variable. Okay, so I'll check here that if value is true, and here we will remove the selection. So we'll write tree dot selection remove method, and here we will simply remove the focus. Okay, so when you will click on the new employee button, okay, true value will be passed from there, and that true value will be received in this value variable. So this condition will become true, so tree selection will be removed. Okay, focus will be removed. Now let me run and see. So as I click on this button, you can see that we are getting error, and this error is at line 24. The error is here. So when you are making the selection, this clear function is getting called, right? And because you are not passing any value here, that's why you are getting this error, because this clear function receives some value. So what I'll do, I will pass initial value as false to this value variable. Okay, so if no argument is passed to the function call, then by default it will take false value, and if some argument is passed, then that value will be stored inside it instead of false. Okay, so now this error will not be there. So when you are not passing any argument, in that case false value will be passed in this value variable. Okay, so when you are simply wanting to clear the fields, in that case you don't want this condition to be true, right? You just want these fields to be set back to normal, right? Let's run and see. So once I select this, once I click this new employee, you can see all these fields are cleared and this selection is deselected. So I hope this is clear. So next we have delete employee button. So how this should work, once we select any row and click on this delete employee button, that row should be deleted, okay, from the database as well as from this tree view, and these fields should be cleared. So I'll create one function here. You can create it at the top, def delete employee. So firstly we will check that if the row is selected or not, right? So we'll write tree dot selection, and it will give you row address that I will store in this variable, and then I will check that if not selected item, means if we are not getting any value inside this selected item tuple, in that case you have not selected a row. So we'll display a message box. So I'll copy this message box from here and I'll paste here. The message will be changed to select data to delete. Okay, so if I'll run, nothing will happen because we have not called this function. So we need to call this from the delete button. So here we have this delete button, and here we need to pass the command equals to delete employee without parenthesis. Okay, now if you run it, and if you are not selecting any row and directly click on this delete employee, it says select data to delete. Okay, and once we select data and click on this delete employee, nothing will happen. So let's add the functionality to delete the record. So we'll go here, and if the row is selected, then we'll simply go to the else part, and in the else part we will call one function which is delete, and this function will be defined inside this database file. So I'll go here, and at the bottom we'll write def delete. Okay, and here we need to execute the query. So what is the query? Delete from data where id equals to %s. Okay, and we'll pass id here. Okay, so this function will take one argument as id, and when we are calling this function we will be passing the id, and that we will get from id entry. Okay, so to this delete method we will be passing the id. Okay, so that id will go inside this id variable. So this query will be executed. So from this data table, row will be deleted where id will be this id. And as you know, when you are deleting something from the table, you also need to commit your changes. So I'll write con.commit like this. So our row will be deleted, and once row is deleted, we will clear everything, right? And then we will display the message box. We will show error, title will be error, and the message will be data is deleted like this. We also need to display the updated data in the tree view. So we will simply call this tree view data function. Now let's run and see. So suppose if I want to delete this record, so I'll select it and we'll click on this delete employee. You can see data is deleted and the updated records are added in this tree view. Similarly, if we delete this record, as you can see, first record and the second record id are same. So once I delete this, the first record also got deleted because its id was also same, right? So the duplicate id records are deleted, and that we didn't want, right? So we just want unique ids, so we are getting unique ids here. After this, let's work on the functionality of this search button and this show all button. So how this search button should work? So we will select the option here, for example role, and then we will mention the role, for example data scientist, and when we click on search we should only see the records where the role is of data scientist. So let's see how we can achieve this. So firstly we'll go to the search button, and here we'll pass the command equals to search employee, and let's define this at the top. So firstly we'll check if search entry is empty or not. So we'll write here if search entry dot get equals to null. Okay, in that case we'll display message box and we'll show error. Title will be error and the message will be enter value to search, like this. So once we click on this search button, it says enter value to search. Suppose we are entering some value here and we click on the search button. If you are not selecting any option, then we should again see an error message that please select the option. So we'll apply elif and we'll write here search box dot get equals to search by. So if in the search box we have this text, it means the user has not selected any option. Then we again have to show the message box, and this time the message will be please select an option, like this. So if entry field has some value but you have not selected any option, you will see this message please select an option. Okay, when both of them have some values, in that case nothing will happen. So in that case we will see only the searched records in the tree view. So I'll call one function here which will be search, and to this search function we will pass two values. First is search box value. Okay, we need to pass the option that the user selects. Suppose he selects role, so we need to pass this role, and then we will be passing the search entry data. Okay, so we'll get that. Similarly search box data will get and will pass, like this. Okay, so these two values will pass, and let's define this search inside this database.py. So here we'll write def search, and this search function will receive two values. So first we will store in variable option, and the second one will store in variable value. And here again we'll execute the SQL command select asterisk from data where, and we will be mentioning this option where option equals to %s, and this %s will be replaced with this value. Okay, and we will be mentioning f string here. Okay, so that we can combine a variable with the string. I hope you are getting this. So this query will give all the records from the data table where this option column will have this value. Okay, and we will get all the records in this result variable. So we'll write my cursor dot fetch all, and then we will return this result variable. Okay, so this result variable will contain all the rows, I mean the search data, so that we can store in some variable search data. Let me print this search data variable. So if I run it, if I am searching based on role, and the no role is of network engineer, and click on this search, you see how many records are there. There are 2 records, right? So we are getting 2 records here. One is this and the other one is this. So it's inside a tuple, right? So we need to add these records in the tree view. So you know how to add the records in the tree view. We have already seen the tree view data function. Here we were fetching the all the employees, right? All the employees were getting inside this variable, right? In the same way, just like we are getting the tuple here, and then we have deleted firstly all the records from the tree view, and then we have inserted all the records like this using a loop. So this same thing we have to do there also. So we'll copy these 3 lines and we'll paste here. Okay, and instead of employees, this will be search data. So for employee in search data, so one by one all the employees will be inserted in the tree view. Okay, and this line is important. As you know, if you will not delete the previously present data, then there will be duplication of the data. Okay, so make sure you add this line. Now let's run and see. Once I click this search button, so you can see that we are getting both the records here. Similarly, you can search based on the name. So if it doesn't match, then you will not see any record. Okay, so this name matches, so we are seeing the record. Okay, after that we need to add functionality to this show all button. So once we click on this show all the records should be displayed in this tree view. Okay, so its functionality is easy. I hope you can do it by yourself also. So here we have the show all button. We'll pass a command to it. We'll write show underscore all. Let's define this function at the top here, def show all. So inside this show all function, we just have to call this tree view data, as this function displays all the records in the tree view, right? So let's run and see. Firstly, let's search some employee based on name. So there's this one employee. Now if I click on the show all button, you can see we are seeing all the records. Okay, apart from this, once I click on the show all, I want everything to be deleted from this entry field, and this should be set back to search by. So just after this, we'll write here search entry dot delete from start till end everything, and then search box dot set, and we'll set search by to it. Okay, let's search by gender. So these are the females. Now if I click on this show all, you can see that this is set to search by and this is deleted. So this search functionality and this show all functionality is also completed. Now let's work on the functionality of this delete all button. So once we click on this delete all, firstly a confirmation message box should be displayed that do you really want to delete all the records. There should be two options, yes, no. If we click on no, nothing should happen, but if we click yes, all the records should be deleted. Okay, let me show you this in my original project. So these are the records. If I click on this delete all, it says do you really want to delete all records. If I say no, nothing will happen, but if I click on yes, you can see all the records are deleted. So I'll define one function here, def delete all. So firstly we will display a message box, we'll ask yes, no. Okay, so firstly we have to provide the title, so title will be confirm, and then the message will be do you really want to delete all the records, question mark. Okay, so this ask yes no method returns either true or false value, and that we can store in some variable like result. Okay, and then we can check that if this result variable is true or not. If the result variable is true, it means you have clicked yes, and if it is false, that means you have clicked no. So if you have clicked on yes, it means you want to delete all the records. So what I'll do, I'll call one function delete all records, and we will define this function inside this database file. Here we'll write def delete all records. Okay, and we will be simply executing the query. So the query is truncate table and then the table name. So this will delete all the records from the database. Okay, and we also need to commit our changes because we are deleting the records, we are doing modifications in the data. So we'll write con.commit. So if you'll click on the yes button, then inside this result variable you will get true, and this condition will become true, and this function will be called and it will delete all the records from the database. But if you click on no, in that case this else code will be executed and we can simply pass because we don't want anything to happen, right? Or if we don't write this else, then also it will work fine. Let's see. If I click on this delete all, nothing is happening because we forgot to pass the command. We'll go to the delete all button, and here we'll pass command equals to delete all, like this. Now if I click on this delete all, you can see we are seeing this ask yes no message box. It says do you want to delete all the records. If you say no, nothing will happen, but if you click yes, all the records will be deleted. For now I am not deleting all the records because I want to show you one thing here related to this scroll bar. So what I'll do, I'll add some more employees so that you can see if this scroll bar is working fine or not. Now if I am adding one more data, just check if this scroll bar is working or not. You can see the data is added, but this scroll bar is not working here. Okay, we are not able to see employee 17 data. So let's fix this scroll bar. So where we have created this scroll bar, here it is, right? So we'll pass the command to this scroll bar, and command will be tree.yview, like this. So now if I run it and move this scroll bar down, you will be able to see the last data, employee 17 data. Okay, we can also set this scroll bar with this tree view. So when more data will be added to this tree view, its size will change according to the added data. So we will write here tree dot config and y scroll command equals to scroll bar dot set, like this. Okay, so now the scroll bar is set with this tree view. I made a mistake in the spelling, it will be scroll. So now you will see the changes in the size of the scroll bar as you keep adding the data in the tree view. Okay, now this scroll bar is set with this tree view. So this is also done, and now I want the ID of this type only, EMP and then the number. Okay, suppose if I am adding ID just one, you can see data is added. Okay, so I don't want ID of this type. So if user is trying to add ID in this fashion, then we will display some message box that ID has to be in this fashion. Okay, so we'll come to this add employee function, and here we can apply elif condition. Elif ID entry dot get dot starts with EMP. So whatever we will get from the ID entry, we will check if it starts with EMP or not. If it is starting with EMP, then this condition will become true, and if it doesn't, then this condition will become false. So we'll add not here. Okay, the ID in the ID entry doesn't start with EMP, then this condition will become true. So we'll display an error message box. So we'll copy this and we'll paste here. The message will be we will display this message: invalid ID format, use EMP followed by a number, example EMP1. Okay, so let's see. Now if I add employee, it says invalid ID format, use EMP followed by a number, example EMP1. So this way you will only be able to add ID in this fashion, in this way. Alright, I will also add some vertical padding to the button frame. I feel these buttons are a little bit up, so we'll search for button frame. Okay, you can search using Control F, and here you can simply provide pad y equals to 10 pixels. Yeah, now it's fine. Your buttons, your frame is 10 pixels down. Yeah, now it's fine. So that's it. This project is completed from my side. You can add more functionality to this project. If you have any doubts, let me know in the comment section. And if you have successfully completed this project, many congratulations to you, and let me know in the comments that you have successfully completed this project. Thank you for watching.